Following these 5 steps will help you find your dream job in tech sooner rather than later. Number 1, identity capital. Number 2, a goal without a plan is doomed for failure. Number 3, take action. Number 4, my personal favorite, front door, back door, entry point. Finally, why not you? I'm gonna talk about each extensively now. I currently work in software sales and I've spent the first 4 years of my career at the same fast-growing technology company. In order to get the job in the first place, it was not easy. I didn't have an internship. I didn't have any past job experience. I had no connections, no help getting in. So the frameworks I use to find my job are what I'm sharing with you in today's video. I have absolutely nothing to sell you. And the first thing you need to know is identity capital. This isn't your resume. It's getting on a piece of paper and writing down your strengths, your weaknesses, and your assets. Write down how much money you have, write down your specialized knowledge, write down your degree, write down what connections you may have, and take an inventory on what experience you have and what do you actually bring to the table so you can start to figure out how can you use your strengths in alternative ways to actually get more of what you want. The second thing you need to do to find your dream tech job is to acknowledge a goal without a plan is doomed for failure. Hope is not a strategy. On that same piece of paper that you took an inventory of your strengths, weaknesses, assets, take a moment now to write down your targets. When you subconsciously think about what you want and you actually express it on paper, it becomes real. It's something you thought about, it's something you wrote down, and it's something that you now can take and reorient the necessary levels of action you need to actually see it through. In college, I wanted to get a sales job in a big city anywhere other than Ohio. I grew up in Ohio. I didn't like the winters. Nobody likes the cold weather. Escape it. So I wrote that down every day, morning, night. I have found a sales job in a big city outside of Ohio. I wrote that down every morning, every night before I went to bed, and subconsciously it programmed my mind to say, okay, that is my target, that is my objective, that is my mission. Every day I need to figure out what actions can I take to get me closer to that target. And then while you're at it, figure out and write down what are the 3 things that are actually holding you back from reaching that target. In college, I wanted to find a job in sales outside of the state of Ohio, but what was holding me back was partying, doing drugs, hanging out with friends, playing too many video games, watching TV. So what I wrote down was, hey, I need to stop drinking, I need to stop doing any stupid stuff. So I started to remove those things, and rather than playing video games all day, every day, I would go to my career fair. I would go research what are companies I want to work for. I would go speak with a professor and say, hey, do you have any connections in this industry? I just want to get out of this state. This is an exercise I do currently in my sales job. I've been able to promote 6 times from a frontline sales development rep to a senior account executive. I 4x my income. It's because I do this exercise continuously and I figure out what is actually holding me back. Is it too much leisure time? Is it too much TV? Is it too much time spent worried about what other people expect me to do? And once you start to identify what are these roadblocks, remove them. Don't even worry about adding positive new habits. It's just remove the things that are holding you back so you don't get in your own way. I'm sitting in my company's office right now. We are hiring. I want all these open desks to motivate you and say, each open desk my company has, it's actually costing us money. Every company is hiring right now, so you have infinite opportunity to go find whatever job you want. Once you've taken an inventory of your identity capital, you've written down your targets, you know what's holding you back, now it's time to start taking action. And in college, I started with the low-hanging fruit. So I went to my career fair. There happened to be companies that were recruiting from one of the sales programs I was in. So I looked at the list of 45 companies. I didn't know what any of them did. I didn't care about the industry because I didn't know what to be looking for because I didn't have channels like this telling me what to actually do based on firsthand experience. All I did was started by looking at the geography. I said, location, anywhere other than Ohio. Check, check, check. So I refined the list to about 12 companies. So take a moment now to think about where do you want to live at? And don't just limit yourself to, well, my family's in Columbus, so I'm going to stay in here my whole life. I showed up to the career fair and I literally went up to the booths and I said, hey, my target is to get a job at one of these locations you've identified. I'd like to interview. And then they started taking the resumes and then eventually you get the interviews. But it started by taking action and figuring out where I wanted to work at. If you don't have low-hanging fruit like a career fair, think about your connections. Can you network your way in? Can you do LinkedIn? And that will play into the front door, back door I talk about in the next step. But what you can do is start to research companies. Go Google largest privately held tech companies, companies with the most funding, the Forbes Disruptor list, the Cloud 100, whatever it may be. These companies that are in the news, have publicity, have money, need to hire because they have these big valuations. We're potentially heading towards a recession. And the one thing they need more than anything else is more revenue. So salespeople are important, engineers are important. Those are typically the two biggest functions in technology organizations. So identify the geography, start to identify the companies you want to work for, and then actually start applying. When I was interviewing, I had an okay resume, but I had read like 50 business books, so I felt like I was ahead of other people from a self-development standpoint. It still took me dozens of interviews to get a job. I got rejected so many times by different companies. I drove an hour away for an interview and they never even followed up with me. And that's just a part of the experience. It's so hard to find a job. So do not underestimate the levels of action you need to take. You may need to do 100 interviews to find a job. The front door and back door entry point, this is my personal favorite, because once you start applying, you'll quickly realize that you're not as special as you thought you were. If you don't have the attention, if you don't have the personal brand, you're not gonna get a special look. You're not gonna be able to just walk your way into organizations. You're gonna have to do the traditional application process like the majority of candidates. You have to identify the companies, you go on the website, the job portal on their website, or you go through LinkedIn. Those are the two primary ways to actually apply to a company you want to work for. I know a guy who just started here as an SDR, and I said, how did you get hired? He had been working at another sales job, non-tech, and all he did was went on LinkedIn because he said, I want to work for that company in Dallas. He applied. He got reached out to by a hiring manager because his resume was good enough to at least get that initial look. You do a phone screening and they say, okay, this person's legit enough to then advance them to that first interview. Then you'll probably have to interview with an actual sales manager. And then there may be some additional steps, and then you'll either get an offer or you won't get an offer. And that's the traditional front doorway into organizations. An example of using a backdoor to get into an organization. So I was speaking with a guy last week at my company President's Club. He was sitting there, he was super chill. And I said, hey, how long have you been at the company? He said, about a year. And I said, wow, that's really impressive. You already made it to President's Club. I said, how did you initially hear about the company? He said he identified geography. He wanted to live in Utah. And he said, what's the best company to work for in Utah? Okay, the current company I work for. So he started to apply online. He actually got rejected twice. Okay? And here's where the back door comes into play. So he said, I really want to work for this company because I'm moving there. I need to figure out how to get creative. So what he did was he happened to be in the Air Force, he previously was. So he started looking through the current employees of the company and figured out that somebody happened to be tied to the Air Force. He reached out to that guy, and then he had that guy connect him with somebody who would actually give him a serious look. And then just by doing that subtle connection and getting connected to the right person, it then gave him, I don't want to say special access, because there is no nepotism, there is no special priority, you still have to pass the hiring bar, but he at least got a certain look on his resume, opposed to if you go through the front door, you may have the best resume, but maybe that recruiter is just not checked in at that point, they just skip through your thing and then you get put in the no pile. That's how it happens. People are people. It's not like they have some algorithm saying, okay, you had this GPA, you have these experiences. It's just people reading through and they either say yes, no, based on emotionally however they're feeling. So if you have a backdoor way in, some sort of connection to have an existing employee refer you, because one, they get incentivized. If I refer you, I get paid. So I want to see you succeed. But more importantly, I can say, hey, this is the person you need to talk with. I'll reach out to that person. I'll say, hey, I know this person. Give them a look. And that at least will give you a real look. And that's an example of how to get creative. And what you can do if you don't know anyone in your network, LinkedIn is really important. That's why I'm constantly posting. I just hit 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, so go connect with me now if we're not connected already. But what you can do is say, did anyone go to my school? Do I have any mutual connections? Can I just start reaching out to people in the position that I want to work for? And don't just reach out saying, can I have 15 minutes? Reach out with a specific ask. Hey, I want to set up 15 minutes because XYZ. I get dozens of messages a day, people saying, hey, I want to set up 5 minutes with you. And to you, you're like, oh, that's nothing. But to me, I'm like, well, what do you want? Like, why would I take the time? I'm so busy. There's all these people reaching out. Ask with a specific intention in mind. You'll find somebody, they will help you. People want to bring people up. And you got to get creative to try and get yourself in the back door. And the final strategy you can do is, why not you? And ask yourself, why do you want the job? Do you want the job because somebody else thinks that that would be a good job for you to have? Or do you want the job because you have a burning desire to work at that company? Are you somebody that's going to show up and just pick up a paycheck? Or are you somebody that's going to show up and advance the mission? Look deep into your own eyes in the mirror and ask yourself, what cohort do you fall into? Because if you're not there to add value and move the company forward, then would you even hire yourself? So ask yourself, why do you want the job in the first place? And then the final point here is, why should they pick you over hundreds of other people? Everyone's competitive nowadays. Everyone's got a degree. Everyone is coherent. Everyone can talk, at least if you're applying to a sales job. It depends on what you're doing. But ask yourself, why would you hire you? And it's really important to be able to clearly state that, because when you're in the interview and they say, tell me about yourself, you come out and you can at least stand apart. You're not just going to say, well, I was in the sales club in college. I have a lot of friends. I got a lot of Instagram followers. None of it matters. You need to be able to sell yourself. It starts with storytelling. So that's why you got to take an inventory on strengths, weaknesses, assets. What do you bring to the table? The clearer you are in what you want with your target, number two, the clearer you will be able to be with your why. And then when you start to take a massive action, you'll put yourself in the right positions to succeed. And when you're creative with that action using the back doors, then all of a sudden you will put yourself in the best position to find your dream sales job or job in tech, whatever you're looking to do. You guys know I like to talk a lot about sales. If you found value in today's video, hit the like button now, share it with a friend who needs it, subscribe to this channel for all things business, career, tech, finance. And if you'd like to see my podcast that I created specifically for people looking to get to the next level, it's going to be the first link in the description below, Sales Prestige Podcast. This week's episode had one of my best friends on it. We met 4 years ago. We started day one together as SDRs, and it was in person as well. So let me know what you guys think. Have a great rest of the day. Best of luck. Bye.